Students, this is lecture number 10, the last lecture of Unit 1 of PBA 205. And it's not a very long lecture, we will just cover some things. What is the ethos of Vedas? I've explained to you the gist of Vedas, but I want to explain to you still further so that you remember what is meant by Vedant, because questions are asked on Vedant, what is the concept of Vedant. I also want to tell you the philosophical nature of Vedant. It tells us about four paths through which we can make our life better. We can be nearer to God. And when we say God, we are talking of the supreme consciousness. We are talking of the eternal truth. We are talking of the supreme knowledge, the Param Brahm. Okay? Which is Nirgun, which is Nirakar, which does not have any form, which is the end all and be all of this universe. Brahm, not to be confused with Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, the Brahm. And the four paths which have been given by Bhagwan Shri Krishna himself in Gita are Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Gyan Yoga and Raj Yoga. I will explain this to you in today's lecture. Last but not the least, we will also try to understand Vedant, which is the end portion of Vedas. How are they relevant? How are they relevant to management? Do they have relevance, first of all, to our present day life at all? Are they relevant today? Because anything, any education, anything, any knowledge which is not relevant will not make us wise. Any knowledge which is not relevant or which is outdated does not need a special program to be chalked out so that the newer generations can know about it. So what is the correlation between Vedanta and management? Have there been any empirical studies that have been done which prove that the solution of many problems which exist today can be solved by implementing the principles of Vedanta? I think yes. One of the interesting things people ask me is why should managers be trained in Vedant in Indian context? So oftentimes I tell them that if a dentist deal with the teeth, so his entire curriculum, his entire education is devoted towards that subject only. If you are a physicist, you learn the books of physics, isn't it? So if you are a practitioner of management, and management, as I always say, is man, machine, knowledge, wisdom, and beyond. So should we not study? Should we not study that discipline which deals with making a man a better human being? And is it not a better human being who becomes a better worker, a better manager, a better follower, a better corporate citizen? And how is it that a man becomes better in terms of discharging his day-to-day duty? By practicing, by achieving knowledge, by attaining wisdom, by inculcating in himself or herself a sense of discipline, by building a strong moral character. And if there are any scriptures which are available which lead to this result, wherein we are able to gain in terms of moral strength, in terms of character building, should that subject not be taught? I think answers to many problems can be obtained if we do some study of Vedant. You will be surprised that it is in Vedas that just like a honeybee suckles the nectar from a plant, from a flower, and converts that into honey, a businessman should also show the same tendency when he is exploiting the natural resources of this world. This is in Vedanta. People are talking about circular economy now. People are talking about service as a solution, and people are talking about sustainable business practices. All of these are enshrined in our Vedas. So I am a firm believer that Vedant and management, they can be taught hand in hand, and anybody who has good knowledge of Vedant, who understands the basic principles of Vedant, can go on to become a good manager. In the next slides, we will understand more about the ethos of Veda, and then we'll go to Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Gyan Yoga, Raj Yoga, and in the end, I have prepared a 3-page slide. Oftentimes, this question is asked: what is the relevance of Vedanta to modern management? Do you think the Vedanta education is necessary or helpful in making a better management? I have tried to answer that question. Let's proceed further. This video I am trying to explain to you how to answer questions like, if you get a question on describe Vedas, Upanishads, Vedant and correlation, or what is the essence of Vedas, or 5-6 years ago a question was asked, what are the essential learnings of Vedant, then in this video I am trying to capture or to answer it very well. First of all, you have to say that Upanishads are part of Vedas and are ancient Sanskrit texts that contain some of the central philosophical concepts and ideas of Hinduism, which are actually, some of it is also shared by Buddhism and Jainism. The Upanishads are commonly referred to as Vedant Upanishads along with Bhagavad Gita and Brahma Sutra. Brahma Sutra is also explanation of Upanishad. These three form what is called Prasthantrayi. Prasthantrayi means three methods, three ways of exiting the world and achieving moksha. So what is fundamental to Vedanta is, you have to answer like this. Fundamental to Vedanta is Upanishads, the Brahma Sutras, and Bhagavad Gita. What is Bhagavad Gita? Bhagavad Gita is the song of the Lord. Bhagavad Gita is that part of Mahabharata wherein Bhagwan Krishna, he gives a discourse to Arjun about what is his responsibility, what is his duty, what is this world, what are the relationships, what is meant by a human life, why does a human life come to earth, what happens to life after death, what is the cycle of karma, this karmic cycle. All of this is explained by Bhagwan to Arjun, because Arjun, if you remember, at that time had he was about, Arjun was supposed to lead the forces of Pandu forces, the forces of Pandavas against Kauravas. Of course, it was Satyaki who was the commander in chief, but Arjun was the prime warrior. But Arjun, when he goes, he sees all his seniors, he sees his grand uncle, and he sees his own Guruji who are on the opposite camp. He starts to tremble, he starts to waver, he becomes weak kneed, and he says to God that, oh God, I will not be able to fight them. They are all my blood relations. Even Kauravas, who have done so much harm to me and my brothers, they are after all my kith and kin. And who can fight grandsire like Bhishma, who's my father's uncle, and Guru Dron and Kripacharya? So it is at that point in time that Bhagwan Shri Krishna gives him, or he gives the discourse which is called Bhagavad Gita, wherein he tells Arjun as to why he should take up a responsibility, and he tells him, Bhagwan tells him to differentiate between relationships in this world and his own relationship with the Supreme Being, as to why he was sent on this earth, what was the mission of his coming there. All this is contained in Bhagavad Gita. Every house has a copy of Bhagavad Gita, and the The philosophical foundation of Hinduism, it is in Prasthantrayi, in Vedant, Upanishads, Brahma Sutras, and Bhagavad Gita. Vedant essentially affirms the oneness of existence. Ekam Satyam Vipra Bahuda Vedanti. There is one God, there is one power, there is one truth, but wise men call it by different names. It tells about the divinity of the soul. It tells about the harmony of all religion in this Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. It's perhaps the only religion, all encompassing religion, which does not tell you to leave others. It exhorts you to follow the path of righteousness, the path of dharma. Okay? If you, as I explained to you, Vedant means the end part of Vedas. And Vid also means knowledge. See, the knowledge here does not mean knowledge of archery or knowledge of mathematics. Knowledge means knowledge of God as well as the knowledge of our own divine nature. Okay, so Vedant is a search of self, God within ourselves. So essentially, a person who is in the journey of Vedant, he is on a mission of self-realization. Vedant maintains that God can be personal and he can achieve a human form in any yug. Okay, my Guruji told me, I asked him, if Brahm is the real God, if he is the supreme power, then who are Bhagavan Shri Krishna and who are, he says they are, and what is the difference between the avatars and the gods? So different people give you different explanations. For example, he told me अवतार जो होते हैं वो लीला करते हैं पर भगवान लीला नहीं करते. God, so but we have to look beyond all things. We have to look beyond all things. Within us there is a divine self. Within us there is a divine self which is called Atman. Jeev Atman. हर जीव के अंदर आत्मा है, जीव आत्मन. And Adi Shankaracharya says that this Atman is nothing but a part of Paramatma. It is a part of Brahm. So, Advait, they are not two, they are one. They are not two, they are one. And our conscience, we should try to ensure that our conscience remains pure. Okay? What are the essential big learnings of Vedant? In every Veda has some Mahavakya, big statement, Mahavakya. I will tell you 4 Mahavakyas of Vedas. First is Pragyanam Brahman. Pragyanam Brahman. Pragyanam means it is drawn from Aitreya Upanishad of Rig Veda. Pragyanam means insight. What is inside you? Inside you. Insight, knowledge. It says knowledge is Brahm. The supreme power is knowledge. Knowledge of self is the supreme power. It's a Brahm Vakya. Pragyanam Brahm. Then Atharva Ved says in Mandukya Upanishad, it says, I am Atma Brahma. I am means me. Atman, myself. This self is Brahma. That is, the supreme power is inside me. Okay? First was Pragyanam Brahma, which means insight, the eternal, internal knowledge is Brahm. See, there is no talk of God. There is no talk of Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, Ram, Krishna, nothing. There is a talk of Jivatma inside you, purity of thought. Pragyanam Brahm. It's from Rig Veda. Insight is Brahm. Second is I am Atma Brahm. This self is Brahm. Third is Tat Tvam Asi. Thou art that. You are Brahm. That means, as a teacher I am telling you, Tat Tvam Asi. My boy, my girl, you are that. You are Param Brahm. You are not just a human being. You are the manifestation of that supreme power. You are the God. Think of the confidence building, not to be taken in the sense of arrogance, but to be taken with a sense of gratitude towards God. Pragyan Brahm. First, Pragyanam Brahm. Insight, enlightenment is God. I am Atman Brahm. This self, what is inside me, the Jivatma, inside the body Jivatma, that is Brahm. Tat Tvam Asi, not only within me, within you, Tat Tvam Asi. Thou art that. This is from Samved. And then from Yajurved, I told you Yajurved is a book of spells, knowledge, not knowledge, spells and chantings. Many people don't even consider. Okay, it is called Aham Brahma Asmi. This is very popular. Many people are aware of Aham Brahma Asmi. There was a Netflix or a Amazon series in which that crook, his guru says, who was also a crook, he says, Aham Brahmasmi, Aham Brahmasmi, and they are doing various kind of useless acts. Aham Brahmasmi is the final realization. So you take it as if a disciple is sitting near a guru, and the guru is saying, Pragyanam Brahm, insight into Brahman is within us. I am Atman Brahm. Inside me is Brahm. Tat Tvam Asi. Within you is Brahm. And then ultimately, I am the Brahm. It is in Yajurved. I am the Brahm. These are four Mahavakyas of Vedas. Four Mahavakyas. So you will see everything in Sanatan Dharma, everything in our scriptures, they are doing what? They are doing nothing but urging you to travel inwards in your soul, in your consciousness, introspect and take a decision. When you are faced with a situation in life, a situation where you have to take momentous decisions, a situation where uh, you are between devil and deep sea, who will provide you solution? Books, computers, your friends, they can give you suggestions, they can guide you, they can coach you, but eventual decision you have to take. Your conscience has to take a decision. There is no situation, there is no situation where you have no option. Now you will say, sir, how is this possible? I asked this question in one of the camps I attended of Brahma Kumaris. I asked Sister Nivedita, I said, Sister, I have I have a responsibility given by the management that I must retrench workers. We have a workforce of 200 people. Because of the bad economic situation, bad economic condition, and because of the new technological changes, we don't need so many men. What option do I have? I must retrench workers. My management has given me this task, and as the top manager who's dealing with all the workmen, I have to do this. So I have no option. She said, really, you don't have an option? I said, I don't have an option. Are you sure you don't have an option? I said, I don't have an option. She asked me to close my eyes and think and introspect. And he says, think of any number of options which can come to you, which can be very weird options, which are out of the box options, and start thinking. I sat there all alone, and she said, within you is Param Brahm. Within you resides Brahm, the supreme power. And the last thing which the supreme power says is that I don't have option. And we thought about options. We had options of not retrenching the workers and taking a temporary hit in our profits. Number two, we had an options of diversification. We had an option of saying no to new technology right now. We had an options of taking all the workers into confidence and telling them that this is why we are doing this. We had an options of expanding our business. We had an options of outsourcing our workers to other companies. I had an option of resigning, of saying no, I will not implement this because this is anti-worker. Right or wrong, right or wrong, we are not saying. But the fact is that I had an option. So you cannot say if somebody is giving you a poison, you cannot say you don't have an option. You have an option of taking that poison and not taking it. If he is thrusting that poison into you, you have an option of not gulping it inside. You have an option of resisting and not resisting. This is what the sister at the Brahm Kumari ashram told me. So it is every man in any situation, every woman in any situation has option. You have an option of saying yes to a job, of saying no to a job. If you are tasked with doing something which is against your basic nature, you have an option of saying yes or saying no. Of course, whatever option you choose, the consequences are yours also, isn't it? The consequences are yours also. Suppose in an effort to compete with other companies, and if other companies are indulging in unscrupulous activities, and these unscrupulous activities include bribing some government officials to get the contract, it's your option. You have an option of saying your management that I don't want to be part of this bribing brigade. So you can choose to change me. Okay, you have an option. You can't say I don't have an option. Because I must keep my job. To keep a job or not to keep a job is an option with you. If you choose to go along with them and you become a part of this bribing brigade, years will pass, and someday your company or you will get caught, you will get caught in a transaction. And if authorities come knocking at your door, remember, it is not company's fault, it is your fault. You chose to side with them. Mind you, I am not saying that what you did then was right and what you do right now is wrong. I am not ascribing anything to it. If the class, if the students want to go, if the students want to go, bunk the class and go for a movie, you have an option. You have an option of sailing with your class and you have an option of not sailing with your class. But the repercussions of your actions are entirely yours. You cannot then blame it to God. Or you cannot blame your friends for the action you choose to take now. This, on one hand, you have the supreme knowledge inside you, you have the capacity to think about the pros and cons of any action of yours. On the other hand, you want to blame it to external forces and say that I was bound to take this action because of that, because you always have a choice. So I have explained to you the Mahavakyas of Vedas. I have explained. See, many times you will find there are conflicting messages. There are conflicting messages among religions. They are more due to these dogmas and doctrines rather than the spiritual experience. Observations, rituals, ceremonies, it is not religion. True knowledge of self and identifying self vis-a-vis the supreme being is the real knowledge. Okay? According to Vedant, there are four paths we can take in an effort to achieve our own divine nature. I will explain those four paths to you, and I hope you have understood now the essence of Vedant. The essence of Vedant is philosophical, spiritual. It aims at Sat Chit Anand. Sat means the existence, the reality. Chit means the consciousness, and Anand means eternal bliss. This Sat Chit Anand is what stands for Brahm, and in pursuit of this Brahm within ourselves is the essence of Vedant. Students, this may look somewhat complicated right now, but as I told you, listen to the lecture, read to the text I have sent you on PDF format. 90 slides in PDF formats have been shared with you, and towards the last 10 slides you will find the text of whatever I am telling you right now. Hope you are understanding, and I'll now go to the concluding part of my lecture. So, what are the four paths or four yogas which have been prescribed in Vedant, in our Sanatan philosophy, to achieve our divine nature? We are trying to achieve our divine nature. What is divinity? Divinity is when we merge ourselves with the Supreme Being, and when we take actions with pure mind, pure consciousness, following the philosophy of Sat Chit Anand, the true existence, the true consciousness, and pure bliss. First path which has been prescribed is called Karma Yoga. This is a path of action, and it suits people with active temperament. So what does Karma Yoga means? That you perform your actions just like most of us are Karma Yogis. It's not that anybody who is a Karma Yogi cannot be another kind of a yogi, but most of us who have got active temperaments, who are normal human beings, we have to perform our day-to-day actions, our day-to-day duties selflessly, without thinking of success or reward. This is very important. Very difficult to actually practice, but this is the aim. मैंने तो पतंग उड़ाई थी, मांझा में सबसे अच्छा लाया था, चरखी पकड़ने वाला भी सबसे अच्छा था, मैंने पेंचे भी अच्छे लड़ाए, लेकिन मेरी पतंग कट गई. पतंग कट गई तो नई पतंग आएगी, उसमें बहुत ज्यादा परेशान होने की जरूरत नहीं है. मैंने एनडीए का एंट्रेंस एग्जाम दिया था, मैंने न्यूमेरिकल एबिलिटी भी की थी, जीके सेक्शन भी अच्छा किया, इंग्लिश सेक्शन भी अच्छा किया, लेकिन मैं रिटन टेस्ट क्वालिफाई नहीं कर पाया. तो अगर आप नहीं कर पाए तो आप रिव्यू करेंगे. यू हैव टू रिव्यू वेयर यू मस्ट हैव गॉन रॉन्ग, what are the corrective actions to be taken. Okay, instead of sitting sad, disappointed, desolate, you have to perform the Karma Yoga, and you have to perform the Karma Yoga without thinking much about success or reward. What does is, if you don't think of rewards, it purifies the heart and reduces your ego. Karma Yoga is the best way to prepare yourself for silent meditation. अभी इस समय all of you, what you have to do is study hard, try to achieve as much knowledge as possible, try to gather wisdom, attain wisdom. Okay, this is Karma Yoga. Second is Bhakti Yoga. भक्त में लीन, भक्ति में लीन. भक्त प्रहलाद भक्ति में लीन थे और उन्होंने सब कुछ ईश्वर पे छोड़ दिया था. ईश्वर नरसिंह का अवतार लेके आए और उन्होंने हिरण्यकश्यप का वध किया. Bhakti is a yoga of devotion, and it is perfect for people who are emotional in nature. Through prayer, through worship, ritual, one comes to see the divine. If you see some people, they are inclined towards bhakti since their childhood. They become saints, rishis or munis. So they get in touch with, or they come in contact with a good guru, and then they become that guru's fellow traveler in the path of bhakti. So karma yoga, bhakti yoga, do you understand? This is called bhakti yoga. You chant mantras which are essential part of bhakti yoga. You do yagnas and what have you. This is called the bhakti marg. Third is jnana yoga, the yoga of wisdom or knowledge. It is most suitable for intellectual people, thinkers, philosophers. A man can be a bhakti yogi also, jnana yogi also, like Shankaracharya. Philosophy of Vedanta, it teaches us analytical self-inquiry into one's own nature of truth. The goal of recognizing the supreme self in oneself and in all beings. आप दुनिया भर के ग्रंथ पढ़ते हैं, आप मेडिटेशन करते हैं, ये ज्ञान योग है. You are on the path of realizing all the knowledge, the spiritual knowledge. And last is Raj Yoga. Raj Yoga is tapasya. जो तपस्वी हो जाते हैं उनको राज योगा कहते हैं. They perform all the asanas, pranayams and hatha yoga. They are integral part of yoga path. The main practice of Raj Yoga is silent meditation, where bodily and mental energies are gradually transformed into spiritual energy. Understand this. Where slowly, gradually, the bodily energies, the energy of the bodies and mental energies, they are gradually transformed into spiritual energy. Raj Yoga. These are the four paths of finding your own divine nature. सबसे श्रेष्ठ पाथ कौन है? मुझे नहीं पता, पर ज्ञान योग जो है, कर्म योग के साथ साथ ज्ञान योग से हम अपने अंदर के प्रभु को पा सकते हैं. Right? What is ज्ञान योग? You have to work very hard. Without hard work, without work, success cannot come. उद्यमेन ही सिद्ध्यन्ति कार्याणि न मनोरथाय ना ही सुप्तस्य सिंहस्य प्रवेशन्ति मुखे मृगा. उद्यमेन ही सिद्ध्यन्ति कार्याणि न मनोरथाय. उद्यम, हार्ड वर्क से ही मनोरथ सिद्ध होता है. Because of hard work you will be able to realize your dreams. उद्यमेन ही सिद्ध्यन्ति कार्याणि न मनोरथाय. Only by daydreaming you cannot think of accomplishing anything. थोड़ा संस्कृत है पर बच्चों थोड़ा इसको भी समझो. उद्यमेन सिद्ध्यन्ति कार्याणि न मनोरथाय ना ही सुप्तस्य सिंहस्य प्रवेशन्ति मुखे मृगा. जिस प्रकार एक सोते हुए सिंह के मुंह में हिरण अपने आप चल के नहीं आता. आता है? नहीं आता. शेर को उसका शिकार करना पड़ता है. शेर झुंड में शिकार करता है. अगर आप बाघ देखो, शेर झुंड में शिकार करता है, चीता अकेले में शिकार करता है. आप शेरों को देखो क्योंकि वो झुंड में शिकार करते हैं. इफ दे गो फॉर अ चेज 7-8 टाइम्स they get success once, right? If a solitary hunter जो अकेले hunt करते हैं, sometimes they have to go on a hunt 8 to 10 times and they are able to get some prey. When I was a salesperson When I was a salesperson, I used to get frustrated, but I realized that I had to make at least 15 calls before I found a customer. I was selling industrial product. I was leading a team of salespeople, but I had to lead from the front. Karma yoga, and you cannot get defeated after one failure. Suppose you are selling insurance policies या आप एमवे की किट बेच रहे हैं. एक किट मामा जी को बेच दी, एक मौसी को बेच दी, एक अपने बड़े भाई को बेच दी, अपने रिश्तेदारों को किट दे दी, इनरोल कर दिया. उसके बाद आगे क्या? वो तो किट लेके बैठ गए. So you have to sell to other people, and then you will realize how difficult it is to sell. But if this selling is the occupation you have chosen, you need to sell. So you have to go and knock at the doors of 10 people before you will succeed. So मेरे ख्याल से कर्म योग सर्वश्रेष्ठ है. इसके साथ ज्ञान योग भी. ज्ञान योग जो है वो क्या है? सेल्फ एनालिसिस, रीडिंग ऑफ स्क्रिप्चर्स. थोड़ा महाभारत पढ़िए, रामायण पढ़िए, अपनी whichever religion you follow. If you are a Jew, read Old Testament. If you are a Christian, read New Testament. If you are a Muslim, you read Quran. The choice is yours. You read Guru Granth Sahib, a book of enlightenment, the newest holy book. Sikhism is one of the youngest religions, and the life and times of the 10 gurus. They sacrifice their lives, not only their own lives, the lives of their children, for saving the humankind. Gyan Yoga. Understand, do a self inquiry. Why am I here? What are my duties? What are my responsibilities? Who created me? Will I leave a legacy if I go? These are the questions which you have to ask yourself. Now we will take in the end the question which I said, how is Vedanta relevant to modern managers? I hope you have understood the concept of Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga and Raj Yoga. The question is, what values a modern age manager can take from Vedanta? And why do you think Vedanta is as relevant in current times as it was before? क्या वैल्यूज है जो एक मैनेजर वेदांत से ले सकता है, और क्या वेदांत का जो ज्ञान है वो आज के कलयुग में in modern times, is it as relevant as it was before? So first of all, you have to understand that Vedanta draws all its knowledge from 4 Upanishads and Brahma Sutra and Gita, Bhagavad Gita. And the principles of Vedanta give you a deep insight into purpose of life, types of human beings, levels of consciousness, and the most vital concept of dharma, karma, arth, moksha, jnana. Okay? So, Vedanta is an ocean of knowledge. And if you have knowledge, you are likely to become a better manager, and you are likely to take better decisions in the benefit of, in your own benefit, in the benefit of your fellow workers, in the benefit of in the community as a whole, isn't it? So this is the first point, because it draws its content from Upanishads, Brahma Sutra and Gita, and these are the books which are perennial source of wisdom, of life, source of life, types of human being. Now, if you see, what are the different type of human beings? There are human beings, it is in Vedanta, who are sattvic. There are human beings who are rajasic, and there are human beings who are tamasic. Okay? Sattvic people are balanced people. Rajasic people are ambitious people. For the sake of ambition, they can do right, they can do wrong. And tamasic people, they are dull, in a state of morbidity, in a state of stuporness. So what I'm saying is, you come to know what are the different kind of human beings from Vedant. So if you know what are the different kind of human beings, will you not be able to devise a strategy to manage these human beings? Very simple, no? So a purposeful study of Vedant can be a source of profound knowledge for modern age managers. Also, you have to understand that business leaders and managers, they are the conscious seekers, they are the conscious keepers of organizations. They are expected to provide moral leadership, moral leadership to their organization, isn't it? So if they are expected to provide moral leadership to the organization, because your organization can come in a time of crisis, हमेशा अच्छा नहीं रहता. अभी कोरोना कोविड-19 से इकोनॉमिक टर्बुलेंस आ गई है. So how is it that you can be a spiritual and a moral leader for your workforce? What Veda tells you about Karma Yoga, as to why and how you should work with a pure mind without expecting fruits. It does not mean expecting fruits. Mean you should not be obsessed with success or failure. Of course, because you must have a goal. You must say, I am making this sales plan. By making this sales plan, I want to achieve so many crores of sales. इतना मुझे, और उसमें मुझे इतना प्रॉफिट होना चाहिए. Plan has to be there, but you don't have to be obsessed with the result. Suppose you are not able to get results, you will not go and commit suicide, or you will not drown yourself in a bottle of Old Monk or Kingfisher. Okay? So Vedant prepares you to become a much better manager. Look at the philosophy of Vedant. Like we said, Ekam Satya Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. Truth is one, people call it by different names. So once we know that the entire Brahmand is Vasudev Kutumbakam, we are all one. Because all Jivatma are nothing but part of Brahm. We are all one. If we have this kind of a feeling, why will we be greedy? Why will we be selfish? Why will we be driven only by profit making? Why will we act like demons and destroy our own organization? Why will we get into unethical practices? Because Vedant believes that dharma, moral dimension, arth, economic pursuits, kam, worldly pleasures, and moksha. 4 things Vedant tells you. Dharma, the moral dimension, arth, the economic pursuit, kam means the worldly pleasures, and moksha means salvation. These are the 4 objects of pursuit. It does not. So if you are looking at such larger picture, then you don't want to become greedy and have a BMW by the age of 29 and want to marry the most beautiful girl on the earth, and for that you are willing to commit tens and thousands of murders and crimes. Okay? So modern day manager can lead a spiritual life, a balanced life, and such a person is always better person, always a better leader to lead an organization. So what has been true for the Vedic period is true today. In terms of the mentality required of a leader, it can change with time, but overall it remains same. A leader is one who believes in the principle of Vasudev Kutumbakam, all his fellow citizens, all his fellow community people, and he, the entire world, the world citizens are same. Such a person. Now, what is the impact of such a person on, let us say, environment? So, if you are conscious that you are nothing but merely a traveler to this earth, then you also realize that you have to leave natural resources also for the next generation. So you will not indulge in rampant degradation of environment. You will believe in sustainability principles. Okay? You will be an environmentally conscious man, isn't it? This is what I mean by relevance of, or the influence, the positive influence of Vedant that can have on the modern day managers. The entire Bhagavad Gita, the song of the God, is devoted towards rights, responsibilities, and duties. Bhagavad Gita places importance on action over renunciation. What is renunciation? अब अर्जुन तो कुरुक्षेत्र में गांडीव छोड़ गए थे कि हे भगवान, अगर जीवन का लक्ष्य मोक्ष प्राप्ति है तो मैं युद्ध क्यों करूं? मैं योगी बन जाता हूं, तपस्वी बन जाता हूं, कष्ट सहूंगा और ज्ञान और भक्ति के मार्ग में चल के मोक्ष की प्राप्ति कर लूंगा. सो भगवान कृष्ण टोल्ड हिम द इंपॉर्टेंस ऑफ कर्म, एक्शन ओवर renunciation. You just cannot leave, you have to fight. So Vedant prepares you for the battle against adversity, taking up a cause based upon righteousness without flinching, even if on the opposing side your own kith and kin are there. So imagine the judge of a court, and he realizes that the judgment, the right judgment, the correct judgment which he is delivered can have a bad impact even on himself or on his family or on one of his children. If he is trained, if he is exposed to the Vedanta philosophy, he will not flinch in giving a verdict which is just and right. This is the importance of Vedanta for modern managers. The concept of Nishkam Karma I have explained to you. You have to keep on doing your work without actually placing inordinately high importance on the success or failure. Vedanta also puts tremendous importance on the uselessness of accumulating worldly possessions, because from dust we all came and into dust we will all go, right? So you take the case of Satyam scam. Satyam's founder Raju, he was running an IT company and basically business process outsourcing company, and the company was giving good profit, reasonable profit. He had a sustainable business model, but he became greedy. He wanted more funds available to him. So what did he do? He started inflating the revenues of his company. कंपनी 100 करोड़ कर रही है तो बताया कि हमारी कंपनी 500 करोड़ कर रही है. अगर कंपनी के पास रिटेन्ड अर्निंग्स 10 करोड़ है तो बताया कि कंपनी के पास अर्निंग्स 50 करोड़ है. एंड द कंपनी वाज अ लिस्टेड कंपनी. सो वंस listed company means it was quoted in the market in National Stock Exchange or Bombay Stock Exchange, and once your auditors sign on your balance sheet and your published balance sheet says that you have so much of earnings, your company starts to attract investors. And when it starts to attract investors, you sell your shares at premium. You come out with an initial public offer or private placement. So more and more money comes to the company. So what did Raju do with this money? He invested this money into real estate. He opened another company called Matsya. Satyam ka ulta Matsya. So what was he doing? He was inflating the revenue of the company. He was inflating the profit of the company. And a big auditor, a reputed international auditor, were auditing it. And he was bribing them, and they were accepting bribes. And he was doing false reporting to the stock exchange about his revenues and his profits. And the share was going up and up and up. And he was collecting more and more money as premium for allotment of share. And the premium he was siphoning off from this company and investing into real estate. And the real estate collapsed. When real estate collapsed, the money was gone. Raju himself, so much burdened by guilt, he had to declare himself that he had been overstating the revenues and the profit. So he was a toast of all high class business societies. People used to welcome him, call him for giving inaugural addresses, and used to honor him. And he was on the front page of business magazines and on page 3 giving a donation there, doing charity here, as if he was the next Ambani in making. And within a span of 5-6 years, the empire crashed. And this gave such a bad name to Indian IT sector as a whole, that the government of India also had to step in. The banks had to step in. Eventually, Satyam was taken over by Mahindra, and Mahindra was able to salvage. But the reputation of entire IT sector of India went down. Can you imagine a publicly quoted company's managing director inflating the sales figures? So if Raju had followed the basic tenets of Vedanta, had he understood that in an effort to become a god, he could not become God because God was within himself. If he had a strong moral character, would he have done such a thing? Satyam would have been stable even today and a good company. Same is true for Yes Bank. Same is true for Rajat Gupta. The first CEO of McKinsey, who was not a US born citizen, Rajat Gupta, who had to go to jail for insider trading. Look at the Sri Lankan tycoon Rajaratnam. Look at Telgi scam. Look at Harshad Mehta. Why all these scams? All these scams because of the greed. Anybody who's trained in Vedanta cannot indulge in these things. What are we? We are made up of the basic constituents of this earth. We are made up of space, air, water, fire, ether. We are nothing but part of the universe. The same elements which are present in the entire universe are present within us. So why do we need to deceive, cheat, swindle people to achieve a status, to try to appear as demigods? So I am of the firm belief that anybody who has dealt with Vedanta, who has studied Vedanta, will be a successful, balanced, modern and respected business manager. Thank you, students. With this we have finished our unit 1.